So I only have one more example that I have here, and then we can start looking at some live questions and answer. But this was one that you sent me recently, which was Rehana. So
she had sent an email in, and is she there?
Is she here? Let me check.
No, she's not there.
Okay. Oh, no, I just got a text from Renu Banu says, yes, I am here. Is Rehana and Renu the same person? Okay, yes, she says that they are the same person. So can we bring her into the session here?
It is Renu, right?
Yes, Renu Banu.
Yeah, I have made her the panelist now.
Great.
Okay, great. Is her audio working, Renu? Is your audio working?
This we will see.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello, namaste.
Namaste. Finally, somebody's online.
Fantastic. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and thank you very much for pulling my questions.
Okay, no problem. It's my pleasure. So the question that I want, this is your astrocartography here. Okay, so the question that I have here for you, and since we're going to focus on romance, love, and marriage, I will focus on that question rather than the career and wealth question. But perhaps we will touch on that too. But I just want to focus on the romantic aspect first. Is that all right?
Sure, that's absolutely fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. So I have your charts here.
Mm-hmm.
Does this look correct for you as your birth chart?
Okay, so...
Are you Gemini Lagna?
Yes.
Okay, with Ketu?
Ketu in Lagna? Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, great. Fantastic. So the question is looking back, which place will I find my spouse and time of year of meeting? So first, let's look at your current periods, and I'm just going to pull this up right here to see what aspects are going to be particularly relevant. But it's worth mentioning even before we get started that your 7th house has very concentration energy, which means there's a Rahu and Jupiter in the 7th house, as well as an aspect of Ketu. And because of your Rahu-Ketu aspect in the 7th house, it's worth mentioning that your partner might come from a foreign place, that your partner might possess certain foreign, exotic, non-traditional energies because of this Rahu-Ketu aspect on the 7th house. And so your Rahu line might show specific indications for where you might meet this person or where this person might be from, especially if this place has foreign or exotic energies for you. But the first question was when. And when I look at your current periods, it's worth mentioning that you're in a Jupiter Mahadasha. You entered your Jupiter Mahadasha December 2011. And because Jupiter is in its own sign in the 7th house, this Mahadasha for you will be show a strong influence as the potential for the time of marriage, for the time of the relationship, for the time when you might meet someone and develop that relationship. Now, Jupiter in the 7th house shows a strong teacher or guru vibration. So it's important to note that there will be a lot of growth through the partnership. There will be a lot of growth through the relationship. And in a sense, this idea that our partner is our guru, this is especially true for you, that there is a large amount of growth or learning that you will experience through the partnership. Now, where are you currently living?
I'm living in Virginia.
Okay, so very interestingly enough, here in Virginia, Rahu Ketu. Now, where are you from?
I'm from India.
So there we go. You are currently located in a place along your Rahu Ketu line with Rahu Ketu in the 7th house of the relationship, which definitely shows the possibility that you might meet your partner in this area who is foreign or exotic from your birthplace. So it might show a strong indication for you that, in a sense, there is a strong possibility for you to meet this person, but they will certainly be foreign or exotic. So one way of understanding this is they might not be Indian, or they might not be from India, and that this line as well suggests an influence for you to meet those people along these areas. And if you notice a little bit to the west, you have this.
We have to see the AstroCartography also.
Is the AstroCartography not being shared?
No, it is at present. It is the chart being displayed.
Okay, let me fix that. Okay, share screen. Okay, here we go. Can everyone see the AstroCartography?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So again, this is her Rahu Ketu line going through Virginia, where she currently lives, showing the ability to meet someone and have a relationship with someone that is outside of her traditional way that she was raised. A foreign, exotic, non-traditional partner definitely has a strong karmic influence, and the ability to meet someone along this line can certainly be seen. And I'm discussing all of the favorable aspects, but I can also touch on the difficult aspects, because when it comes to the Rahu vibration, it will show us, especially with Rahu in the 7th house, it will show us the type of person we want to become married to, or the type of person that we want to be in a relationship with by experiencing the opposite. So in a sense, you might find the person that you are, Rahu represents this infinite experience. Rahu desires to be immortal and have infinite experiences. And so to have Rahu in the 7th house shows you have to go through some experiences as to who the partner might not be in order for you to find who your partner truly is. So in a sense, the Rahu line shows this ability to experience everything that should be experienced or that can be experienced in this area, which means the person that you might end up with might be a process of subtraction of all of the aspects of someone that you do not want to be with. So you find the person who you are truly want to be with by realizing all of the parts of them that you do not want to be with. So there is this saying that everything I'm not makes me everything I am. And so this energy being brought into the relationship as well, one of the more difficult aspects is that you might have to go through many different experiences of people that are not meant to be your partner in order to find this person that is your ultimate partner. So that's some of the difficulty of the Rahu aspect as well. Does that resonate in some way?
I think so. Kind of feel, not that I've been in relationships a lot or met that kind of people, but I exactly know what I don't want.
Yeah.
So when I have an idea, when I think that I want this person, the partner I meet, to be like this, and then after some time I realize that no, this is not what I want.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have a lot of not I want, than more of this is exactly who I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's some of that Rahu vibration of the person that you want is exactly who you don't want. And this will show itself because Rahu's always retrograde. This can seem kind of backwards, but it really does reveal the truth in the greatest sense. Now, you're also in the Jupiter Mahadasha, and your Jupiter being in the 7th house shows that this is a time for you to experience this. Now, when you look at the cartography, you will notice that the Jupiter line is here in the Midwest. So even though you experience, because of Rahu's conjunction with Jupiter, when you are near your Rahu line, the Jupiter will become activated. And your Rahu is in Sagittarius, so it will become even further activated by that energy. But it's possible that there will be a little more fortune, a little more benefit, or a little more ease in terms of the finding of this person closer to this Jupiter line. Which means even if you experience certain aspects that are helpful here, that Rahu can also be confusion. Rahu can also be deception. And if you know what exactly you're looking for, then this isn't as strong. But nonetheless, the influence of the Jupiter line away from the Rahu line may be a little more favorable to the full achievement of the marriage energy at this time, which doesn't necessarily mean that you go visit this area, that you travel to this area, that you move to this area. But interestingly enough, that the partner that you meet, maybe they are from closer to this area, which means maybe they're from Minnesota, Illinois, Missouri, Texas, Tennessee, that it's possible, even South America, Mexico, that there is a strong energy that maybe there is some aspect here that you can either benefit in the relationship by going to these lines, but also that it's possible that this potential person may be from somewhere closer to this Jupiter line. So again, it's possible you meet someone and they say, yeah, I moved here, but I'm from Chicago. Then the lights should go up. Oh, you're from Chicago. Very interesting, because it shows that there's an influence here of potentially the relationship or the partner showing up as relates to this line as well.
I actually moved from there to here, Illinois to here.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So let me look at your periods real quick. When did you move?
I landed there in 2001 Jan, and I moved out in 2004 mid.
So you were in your Rahu Mahadasha. So it makes sense that during your Rahu Mahadasha, you move closer to your Rahu line. So this is another strong example of how the cartography works. In your Rahu Mahadasha, you move away from your current line closer to your Rahu line. And generally speaking, that the Rahu line during the Rahu Mahadasha is a lot more favorable than in any other time of life. So in a sense, when you went towards your Jupiter Mahadasha in the beginning of 2012, that the favorable aspect of your Rahu line decreased a little bit. So even though you moved here during the Rahu Mahadasha, it shows energy, and one of the energies of the Rahu line is it can get us stuck. Rahu can get us stuck. So it's possible that just the long-term effect of Rahu can be getting a little bit of a stuck vibration in this area as well. Possibly because the Rahu line, when we're not in a Rahu Mahadasha, I always suggest to my clients that you don't want to be there for more than a month, preferably only 2 weeks. So it shows that while it was certainly in alignment for some time, maybe that alignment isn't quite as strong anymore.
Okay.
Okay. We have a question here from Lynette. Hi, Lynette. Does her moon line have a significance because it crosses the Rahu line?
Yes, the moon line does have influence here. When I look at her chart, the moon line is also in the sign of Taurus. So it is close to exaltation in the 12th house, moksha bhava, with Saturn. It's in a Venus sign. So there's also this influence of the Taurus influencing the relationship. And the moon line has strong significations here. Because the moon vector is here, this moon line that comes from it is even stronger. So this moon line is significantly strong. Now, moon in the 12th house in the sign of Taurus has a strong amount of energy as relates to the non-attachment, letting go, moksha vibration. So again, even though the moon vibration has certain significations in general that are good for family, that are good for the partnership, by the moon's location in the 12th house, There might be stronger lessons and stronger energies that relate to the non-attachment, that relate to the letting go. And so it's possible this energy isn't exactly supportive of the finding of the partner, but more supportive of your spiritual growth, your ability to achieve moksha in this lifetime. Very interestingly enough, when I look at your chart with the Rahu Jupiter in the 7th house aspect of Ketu on the 7th house, I have seen sometimes that these are people who surrender the material marriage for a spiritual marriage. I'm not saying that this is necessarily an indication for you, but whenever Rahu and Ketu especially have this strong aspect on the 7th house with Jupiter, it could show that your ultimate partner is truly God, that your ultimate partner is God. And so the non-attachment to the material partner, even though you can certainly experience the material partner, that the non-attachment to the material partner is also an aspect here because of the moon in the 12th house and the Rahu Ketu influence on the 7th house.
Wonderful.
Renu,
Yes.
any additions to that? Any questions? Could you follow what Kṣaṇāti speak?
Yes, I was able to follow what he's saying. So what I'm trying to perceive with his direction is, since Rahu is exactly in the place where I'm right now,
Yes.
would it help me in finding somebody, or I'm kind of stuck in this place trying to find someone, and it would be beneficial for me to find somebody from Midwest, because I'm in Jupiter Mahadash. Not that I want to move or something, but I was just trying to understand how this energies play out.
Yes, exactly. That even though you are currently near your Rahu Ketu line in the Northeast United States, that because you left your Rahu Mahadasha in 2012, that when you left the Rahu Mahadasha, that you weren't quite as aligned as you currently are. And so there's this energy that the Rahu can get us stuck, can give us stuck. And there's this possibility that being stuck, the confusion and the smoke and the haziness of Rahu over this line is no longer the best possibility in terms of the achievement of this marriage vibration. And when you look at your chart, we're looking at now it's interesting too, because you have Sun and Mercury in the 4th house, and your Mercury is exalted. So your Mercury line has a strong energy, strong favorable energy in your chart. And so when I think of, okay, where is this possibility for more success in terms of the relationship marriage? It's this line here. So, which includes St. Louis, Chicago, Minneapolis, but also because the Mercury line is here, anywhere in between, even through the Sun line here. So for example, this area here is not as favorable as this area here.
Right.
And so there's a great amount of favor in terms of the possibility of finding the partner anywhere just east of these lines or between the Jupiter line and the Sun line.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing that I thought was interesting when I was looking over your chart is that you're in a Mercury Antardasha. So yeah, and you just went in that this past summer.
August, precisely.
Yes, so that would mean Jupiter, Mercury, you're being very much pulled near these lines. So it might show a great amount, and because the Mercury is exalted, it could show a great amount of success in between these lines for you, in terms of the relationship, in terms of the home, in terms of you know, the overall comfort and success and happiness. That my intuition is it's possible, maybe if it's possible, to travel to somewhere along these lines to experience a change from this Rahu vibration, which might be a little bit sticky.
I get it.
Okay,
Right,
good.
right, Kṣaṇāti.
Thank you.
Of course.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Wonderful.
Shall we look at another question?
We receive also a question.
Okay.
Last one is from Sumit. He's asking that, first of all, namaste, and then can a region signify separation or divorce for a chart?
Oh, yes, definitely. You very often see this when a malefic is debilitated in the 5th or the 7th house, and then that cartography line in aspect there. So, for example, Saturn, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, if they are debilitated or in a difficult position in the 5th or the 7th house, both that Mahadasha and an Anvardasha, indications for an affair, for divorce, for feeling no longer feeling the love or the attraction that you once felt at another time. It can also show that near those cartography lines is where these karmas are more released. So again, debilitated or difficultly positioned malefics in the 5th or the 7th house can certainly show these more difficult aspects.
Great point. Yeah, that was the question for, there is one which you might read out, Bettina, from Lynette.
Okay.
Lynette had a comment to Renu's chart.
Okay.
Maybe her D9 would back up what she said.
Okay. But another thing came up concerning the divisional charts also. Do you check them, Kṣaṇāti?
Yes, I do. Would you actually give me 1 second? I'll be right back. I just have to use the restroom quickly. I'll be 2
Yes,
seconds.
we make a small break.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Just stop your screen share for a second, if you
Okay.
can. Yes.
Great.
So, and at this particular moment, we either take a small break, and if there are questions, then now is the moment for putting them.
Yes.
Writing them in the chat window, and one by one we will truly like to address them.
I think a couple of participants have requested for reading the charts. They have posted the details in Q&A section.
Into the question and answer section?
Yeah.
This you have to address them one by one as soon as Kṣaṇāti is back, because I can't see it.
We can see them. Yeah.
Okay.
We are just waiting for his return, and that will be better than to type them there for everybody.
Yeah.
No? And there is another question from Sharat. We hope all of you like this webinar. And yes. Thank you very much, Kalki.
Sharat is asking, can I give my birth details? I'm not sure if at this point we can erect charts. That might take too long. Maybe if you have your birth chart, you can, but we can't show attachments now, can we?
I'm back.
You're back.
All right.
We have to restart your video. I have stopped it. Just.
Okay.
Yes.
Namaste.
Welcome back. So Gautam Rampal will read some questions.
Okay, great.
Okay. So, which software of AstroCartography you advise? Is there any freeware or a paid version?
Oh, is there, so the question is, what are some of the different softwares?
Yeah, the participant is wants to ask about whether there is any freeware for AstroCartography.
Yeah, what I'm currently using is freeware. So the astro.com is freeware.
It's on astro.com.
Yeah.
Astro.com.
If you want, I can show a brief tutorial about how to use that again.
We did that in the previous video, and on the YouTube we have given the link, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
As well, so people can always go back to.
Yeah, astro.com. Then you go to Astro Travel. You just put your birth details into it, and the cartography will be there. Now, certain Jyotish programs, as well as Western astrology programs, they offer the AstroCartography, but they always end up being the same as the freeware. So use the astro.com. You know, it's very interesting. Some people ask, okay, but astro.com is a Western program. And so are they taking into account the sidereal shift? And actually, AstroCartography was originally created to surpass the debate between tropical and Vedic, because the cartography is based on astrogeography. And so the shift of the sidereal or the tropical, it doesn't really matter for the astrocartography, because it is based on the geography at the time of the birth. So the analysis is different with the Vedic and the Western, because you would use the Western birth chart in order to interpret it from a Western perspective, and you would use the Vedic birth chart to interpret it from an Eastern perspective. But the cartography lines for the Western and the Vedic are exactly the same, because it is based off of geography alone.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
Gautam, you are mute. Now.
I think he's still mute.
Gautam, you're mute. Okay.
Now.
There we go.
Yeah, there was a problem with the button. Okay, there is another question.
Okay.
Does the conjunction of the lines more workable or just the lines?
What's the question?
Does the conjunction of the lines more workable or just the lines?
Is the conjunction of the lines more workable or just the lines?
Yes.
I'm not exactly understand what the question is. Are you asking if the conjunction is more favorable, or?
Yeah, probably that might be the question. It has been asked by Nina Bidikar.
Okay, here. Oh yes. Does the conjunction of the lines more workable or just the individual lines? So I guess the answer to that question is it has to be analyzed to see what that conjunction is in terms of it is favorable or malefic. Certain planets are friends to each other, and other planets, they are enemies to each other. And so the planets which are favorable towards each other, or at least have a neutral relationship, these conjunctions can be very beneficial in the astrocartography. But when the lines are not of the planets, or the planets that are a conjunction are not in a positive relationship with each other, these conjunct lines can be very difficult. Because, for example, let's say that the Sun and Saturn are conjunct together in the 7th house, and they are within a certain, let's say, 3 or 4 degrees of each other. If this is the case, then you can't be close to your sun line without the influence of Saturn. And the Sun and the Saturn are these great enemies. So in this sense, the sun line is made less favorable because it is so close to the Saturn line, and the sun is conjunct with Saturn. So in this sense, the conjunction would make it more difficult, would make it less workable, unless, of course, you are in a Sun or Saturn, Mahadasha or Antardasha. But if you're with two planets that have a more beneficial relationship, have a more of a friendship with each other, for example, Venus and Saturn, then this line would be more workable, that the karma here will be more favorable, and that it won't be as much of a difficulty of separate karma. So when you have the planets that are friendly with each other conjunct in the cartography, this is a place where the karmas are working together. But in a place where the planets are enemies with each other, this is a place where you might be getting two separate karmas that are completely irrelevant to each other, which means that it can be causing more of a difficult effect.
Brilliant. Gautam, you're muted.
Shashank, one guy is asking a question. Can I come on panel for a moment?
Sure.
Welcome, Nina.
Kṣaṇāti,
Yes.
Hi, Shashank.
I ask you later.
Hello, can you unmute your audio?
Done.
Yes, I can hear everyone.
Namaste, Shashank. Thank you for joining us.
Namaste, Kṣaṇāti. How are you doing?
Great. It's a blessing to meet you, sir.
Same here, sir. Same here. I have a question for the AstroCartography chart, which I'm ready with. Can I share screen over here?
Yes, please. If you're able to. Is he given the functionality to share that?
Yeah. Just a minute. Can you see that chart?
Yeah, but it's kind of, oh yes, now I see it perfectly.
So should I go like Asia-wise, or should I go with the worldwide chart?
What's the question?
The question is, should I go this astrography chart through Asia, or should I go with the world chart?
Is your question specific to Asia?
Yeah, actually, it's the date of birth is mine.
Okay.
So I'm born in India, in state of Gujarat.
Okay.
Here is my chart. It's 7 September 1990, 2:56 p.m. Ahmedabad.
Okay, great. What's your question, sir? How can I assist?
I mean, my question is very simple. I mean, there is no line passing through the state I'm born. It's just Neptune and Uranus going through that, and only Saturn is passing through some southern part of India. So how would I get my soulmate? Because all the planets other than Saturn is outside India.
Okay, so what is your fifth house and your seventh house look like?
I'll share that screen as well. Can you see this chart on the left hand side? That's my D9 chart and my natal chart.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Okay, great. So the question is, you have Moon in the fourth house, so it shows a strong family. Okay, go back to the cartography, please, sir.
Yeah. And I'm running through Venus Mahadasha, and in that I'm running through Rahu Antardasha.
Okay, very, very mystical time. So the one thing is I would say is currently where you are located, you said it's along this line here.
This is the purple line which is going through Ahmedabad.
Okay, is that where you currently live?
Yeah. I'm 26-year-old, and I've been like in the same city from last 26 years.
Okay. Now, because you have a moon line here in the west and a Saturn line here in the east, kind of equidistant, even though your chart will play out as neutral, you are also having strong influence by your Saturn line and your moon line as well. Now, moon in the fourth house with this influence here definitely shows India as a homeland, or somewhere close to this moon line, or where the influence of this moon line is a place that will resonate for you in terms of the home. And because the moon is in Pisces, if I remember correctly, this will be a place that has specific spiritual or religious karmic influence that is very strong. Now, here in the Saturn line, it presents it's a place where your karma is to be worked through, but it's a place where there are challenges, where there are tests, where there are obstacles, where there are delays. So again, even though these energies are not in your Mahadasha or your Antardasha or affecting your fifth or seventh house directly, they're still having a strong influence of your karma where they are right now. So in a sense, my first intuition is that some of the karmas that are being emphasized for you at this time are not necessarily focused on the relationship or the marriage energy. Now, they might be focused towards other. Now, will you switch back to your chart?
Yeah, I have a very interesting thing to share with you. Is like Saturn is in the first house in the ascendant.
Yes. So
and, Yeah, and right now in the month of January 27, Saturn is going to transit through my first house. And at that particular time, I'll be going through Venus, Rahu, and Saturn. Then onwards, and on 4th of February, the Jupiter Pratyantar Dasha is going to end. So I guess, because I study astrology from last 6 years, I have an intuition that when I run through Venus, Rahu, and Saturn, so maybe, there can be promises of getting married next year after the month of February.
Most definitely, my friend, because Saturn aspects your seventh house. And Saturn aspecting your seventh house with your Saturn influence in India. And again, you're 26, Saturn aspecting your seventh house, there's been a delay.
Yeah.
There's been certain challenges, certain tests, certain obstacles. But when Saturn aspects your ascendant, when it goes into Sagittarius, and you go into this Saturn subtle dasha, and it's aspecting your seventh house, it can certainly show that that delay is coming to an end, and certain karmas are going to manifest for you in terms of the relationship or marriage at this time. So I would certainly say that when you go through your transit of Saturn, as well as that Saturn period that you were talking about, it'll certainly bring, especially with the return of Saturn, especially with this return of Saturn for you, that it can definitely bring these energies into your chart.
Yeah, absolutely. And because what I have is like, because my ninth house, Lord is in ninth house. So when I was running through, Venus in Moon, or, after the transit of Venus and Mars, I met my Guru.
Mm-hmm.
And my Guru is very old in age. I mean, he is more than 70 or 75 of age.
Mm-hmm.
So what I feel is like, I have this Guru, which I follow. So can it be like my seventh Lord is conjunct with ninth Lord and Venus is posited over there? So is it possible that, whomsoever I marry, and she can also be my Guru in terms of in terms of my materialistic life? She can be a guide for me to run a business?
Most definitely, especially because the ruler of your seventh house is Mercury, and then Mercury is in the ninth house. In a sense, your partner will be a guru of your buddhi, the discretionary factor of your consciousness. So your partner is a guru in the sense of your logic, in the sense of your intelligence. It's also worth mentioning that the ruler of your 10th house is also Mercury.
Yes.
So this energy that the partner is also going to be supportive for you in terms of your career. So there's these guru energies, It's supporting your intelligence and your intellect as well as your career. And again, it shows that potentially during, what is your next Mercury period?
Mercury period, let me check. This is where I'm running through Mahadasha and I'm running through Rahu. Okay, Mercury would be coming in after Saturn next year in the month of July.
Okay, so again, this shows potential indications for the relationship and the marriage as well as your career.
Yeah, because since it's been like 4 years from now, and there is no stability in career, so I'm expecting the stability in career after I get married.
Yes, and the Saturn period could show the marriage, and then the Mercury period could show that marriage activating success in your career. So one way of even considering this is that the marriage will help activate your career success, and that your career won't reach the next level of success until the marriage can activate it.
Absolutely right. Absolutely
Beautiful.
right.
Beautiful point. Thank you very much for sharing your chart, Shashank.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for giving me a chance to come on the panel. And special thanks to everybody, Gautamji, Ingeji, Batinaji, and especially to Kṣaṇāti, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shashank.
That was a very good example and very good experience from your side as well, Shashank. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, G.
Gautam, there is more into the panel of questions and answers, I believe.
Yeah, Renu is asking a question again. So we had her chart.
We had her chart, but we have to go further also because there are more participants, and Renu, we might come back again. Please hold your question, Renu.
Okay. Another question from Aditya. How important is ascendant Lord line?
I love this question because when I do astrocartography, the ascendant Lord has great significations. Because one of the things about the ascendant is it's the first place that I like to go for dharma. It's the first, and with the lagna, it's going to affect every area of the life in some way. And so there is always a significant relationship between the Lord of the lagna and that planetary line, because this represents the body. And so unless the lagna is in a debilitated state, generally the planetary line which rules the lagna will provide favor, especially in terms of the dharma.
Beautiful point.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, if the if the lagna is Taurus, then the Venus line has special significations for the karma. But if Venus is in the 7th house in Pisces, it will be a lot more favorable than if the Venus is in 7th house in Virgo. Again, so if the planet which rules the ascendant is in a debilitated or enemy position, it will bring a little bit more of a mixed effect. But nonetheless, because it rules the ascendant, it should be a place where the body, the Ayurvedic constitution, the doshas are kept in a balanced state. So it should be a place that at the very least is favorable for the health.
Wonderful.
Okay. Another question from Manish. I have heard retrograde Saturn can give early marriage. Is that true?
Certainly is true, especially when the Saturn Antardasha or Saturn Mahadasha is activated by the current dasha periods. But the Saturn retrograde, it depends on its position and whether it's acting functionally benefic or functionally malefic. So, for example, if you are an Aquarius ascendant or a Capricorn ascendant, and then the Saturn is retrograde and exalted in the 7th house, it can certainly show the early marriage. But it can also show the possibility of divorce for that marriage, because an exaltation that is retrograde may act debilitated. And like I said, Saturn likes to delay things in terms of until we are fully prepared for them. So if the Saturn is retrograde, yes, it can show the early marriage, but it can also show divorce. And so it's important with this vibration, with the Saturn energy, to consider, is the Saturn functionally benefic or malefic? And if the early marriage does come, is this something that I'm completely prepared for at the time that I receive it? And again, this would be further emphasized by Saturn or Maha or Antardasha.
Wow.
Okay, there is another question from Prasad. One astrocartography chart can be sufficient for the native whole life, or we have to create year by year as a Varshfal?
Yes, I like to think of the one astrocartography chart based on the native's birth details will suffice for the entire lifetime of the native. So there, it's again, the astrocartography in a sense surpasses this chart significations, but the chart significations helps us analyze it. So I like to think of the birth details and the cartography based on the birth details as totally being enough to see the astrocartography over the whole lifetime.
Wonderful, yes.
Okay, another question. Is it true that if a person migrated to another country, when we do his chart, we should put his country as place of birth?
Yes, but when you do things like this, you are bringing complication. Even though these things might show certain aspects that might be beneficial, it can be even more beneficial to just take the line that for that place based on your birth details and look at it from that perspective. Because the more you bring into it, the more you're going to complicate it. You are going to find things that are contradiction, that are going to discount some of those aspects. So I think best when doing this astrocartography to look at the lines for the places you are moving in your birth astrocartography and not complicate it by changing it to the place that you are currently moving to. So just
Brilliant answer.
Great answer, yes.
Keep it simple.
Very well.
Okay, there is a question from Manish Soni. I heard that retrograde Saturn could give early marriage in 7th house, or with its aspect, can you please elaborate?
We had that.
We had that already. Awesome.
Okay.
But that was a very good point of you, Kṣaṇāti, to keep things simple because they are already very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, there is another question from Prasad. How can we see the accidents in astrocartography?
This is a great question, and I have seen some of the worst accidents manifest as it relates to the astrocartography. Now, this could be a separate session altogether, but just to kind of briefly touch on this is some of the main significations for accidents. First of all is the planet Mars. Also is the planet Rahu and Ketu. And the place that I see accidents in the most are the 6th house and the 8th house. So Rahu, Ketu, Mars, as well as the 6th house and the 8th house, certainly show vibrations that cause accidents. I've discussed with certain clients at certain times, and I had a client who had Mars in the 8th house. When they went through their Mars line, they got into a car accident that put their lives in a critical condition. They were hospitalized for up to 1 week. So you have to look at the ruling planets of your 6th and your 8th houses, the dignity and the strength of those houses, and if a malefic like Mars, Rahu, or Ketu, for example, Kuja dosha, Mars in the 8th house, Mars line will most certainly show a place where you are accident susceptible. Same with Mars in the 6th house. And in general, the Mars line is a place where there is vulnerability to accident. But when this, the Mars or Rahu Ketu is in the 6th or the 8th house, this can make it even more intense. And I've seen with certain clients when they are near their Mars or Rahu lines, and Mars or Rahu is in the 6th or 8th house, they can go through very difficult accidents that challenge their health.
Makes sense. Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderfully
Another
answered.
question. Another question is from Aditya Kaushik. Venus and Ketu conjunction is less than 1 degree. The Ketu and Venus line is overlapped. What does that mean?
Is this for the individual's birth chart?
But he has not mentioned anything
Okay.
apart from that.
Well,
Probably.
yeah. One of the things that I think of when I see this question, because sometimes you see the Venus and Ketu conjunction, or you see any type of planetary conjunction, which is 5 degrees or less. One of the things that can show is that the karmas as relates to these planets are inseparable. So when your Ketu is activated, Venus becomes activated. And when your Venus becomes activated, your Ketu becomes activated. And most likely, if you looked on the astrocartography for this individual, you will find that their Ketu and their Venus line, they're overlapping each other. What does this mean? I addressed it a little bit earlier, is when you have certain planets that are friendly, and it's actually interesting, I've read a lot of philosophy that says Ketu and Venus have a friendship. So specifically for the Ketu Venus line, it is showing a possibility of a beneficial energy here. Now, I don't know the position of, I don't know what sign the Ketu is in, I don't know what sign the Venus is in or which house it is in, but it could show the potential that this is a place where this Ketu Venus line is, because these planets are working together. Depending on the dignity, this could be a very favorable place. Both, and it depends on the which house it is in and the dignity. But because the Venus and Ketu can be considered friends, this could be a very a cartography line or a place where a lot of work can be done, and a lot of the karmas that relate to where the karma and Venus, the Ketu and Venus is located, can be resolved or accelerated or worked through in some way.
It is said that Ketu acts like a Mars also, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
On some points. So that is a combination of Venus and Mars as well, from one angle.
Yes, and I like to think of that as a love and hate relationship.
Yes.
The next question is from Iti Verma. If the Lagna Lord is debilitated but forming Nich Bhanga Yoga, will being close to this planet line be benefic or with challenges?
What did she mention? What the Lagna was?
No, she didn't mention the Lagna.
Okay, so it depends here if the Lagna is a malefic or benefic, of course. But even though the debilitation may be leading to a yoga, that nonetheless it's going to have a mixed effect, especially because the Lagna has to do with the Ayurvedic constitution. And when that Lagna is debilitated, it will show a place where there is a difficulty in terms of the doshas, where you are much more predisposed to vitiation in your victory, vata vikriti, vata pitta kapha. So because of the debilitation of the ascendant, even though it forms a yoga, which means the karmas might be positive as relates to it, nonetheless, this might be a place that is not particularly favorable for the balance of your doshas, vata pitta kapha. And depending on what sign the debilitation is in and what planets are there, it could show which dosha is the most vulnerable to vitiation.
Okay, the next question is from Uma. Is moving closer to Mars line is always bad, even if Mars is the owner of a trine but placed in the 7th house?
Moving close to the Mars line is not always bad. And actually, if Mars is in Capricorn and Mars is in the 2nd house, I've seen it, or Mars is in the 10th house, it could show an incredible amount of success. In the ancient text, one of the ways that Mars is described is Mars is that force in the universe which bears support. Mars is that energy of the universe which bears welfare. So moving close to that Mars line, if it's in a favorable position, in a trine or Kendra, in the 2nd house, if it's in an exaltation or a very friendly sign, it could certainly prove beneficial. especially in terms of your ability to achieve success or reach that next position which you are seeking. But the Mars line 95% of the time causes vitiation of the Pitta dosha. So even though it can prove beneficial in terms of the success of the individual, if Mars is having an aspect in the 7th house and is in a favorable position, it could show potential success in the relationship or marriage, but it will also show Pitta vitiation. Pitta vitiation in terms of the current state of the doshas for the individual, and if Mars is in the 7th house, it's bringing Pitta vitiation into the relationship. So being close to that Mars line might cause frustration, irritation, certain discomfort in terms of the Pitta aspect being brought into the relationship. Mars line, very Pitta aggravating.
Big point. Big point. Very hot.
Can we see unnatural deaths in astrocartography? Prasad has asked this question.
Can we see unnatural deaths in astrocartography? Yes, most certainly. We can see these things, and they're usually in alignment with the, there's aspects of the 8th house, the rulers and planets which are located in the 8th house, as well as the 12th house, the rulers and planets which are located in the 12th house. For example, yes, you can see unnatural deaths for people, but you can also see the place in the universe which will be the most beneficial for your moksha. Many of my clients, they like to say, where should I retire? Where can I find my path to moksha when I am ready to let go of my career, when I am ready to let go of my desire for wealth? And I very quickly look at the energies that are in the 12th house, that are in the 8th house. And these places can be great places for retirement, for when we can focus on our spiritual evolution, our oneness with God. Now, you mentioned unnatural deaths. Usually these unnatural deaths are related to a malefic disposition in the 8th house or the 12th house. And so those lines where there is that malefic disposition in the 8th house or the 12th house, you are going to be more vulnerable to unnatural death. But it's very interesting. Even the most unnatural death is in some way natural and was meant to be. And this is hard to accept because sometimes people go before it is their time. But nonetheless, it can show that there is an alignment around this death as it relates to the 8th house, as it relates to the 12th house and the cartography lines that the individual is experiencing.
Well said.
Okay. Which is the Rahu Ketu line? Is it the black line?
Yes, the Rahu Ketu line is a black line. And if you look at the symbol, it is very close like the Leo with the circle and the loop, except there is a loop on either side. So loop, then this, then another loop. That is the Rahu Ketu line. If I share my screen quickly, I can show you what that looks like. 1 second. So here we are again. If we're looking at the cartography here, sorry to use your chart, Sony. Okay, we can use my chart. So if you look over here, this is the Rahu Ketu line here. With this, it looks very similar to the Leo glyph, and then this black line going down here. This is the Rahu Ketu line. There are other black lines like here, but they are outer planets, Western planets like Chiron and Pluto. And while I have been coming to study these in some sense, because I study the Jyotish from a traditional perspective of the Navagrahas, I don't go into too much detail of analyzing the outer planets, although I do use them to either emphasize certain points about certain areas.
Very nice, yes. Okay. Now, Lynette had another question. Lynette, would you like to come on?
Yes.
Like the panelist?
Bring her. Gautam, could you do that, please, to bring Lynette on?
Yeah, sure.
We'll make you panelist.
It is a very great point because Kṣaṇāti is also very, very well learned and experienced in Ayurveda. So it is a perfect question on that regard. Which
Okay, I have made Lynette panelist.
Namaste.
Unmute her. So please ask your question, Lynette.
Okay, I just moved. When I switched I'm in a Mars Jupiter. So I was only here a couple days and I went into Mars Jupiter. I moved directly to a Saturn, Mercury, Mars, moon line. I'm in New York City.
Okay.
But I'm highly aware of my Vata issues.
Uh-huh.
And I know how to counteract them, but I mean Pitta, of course.
Uh-huh.
And I'm 49.
Okay. So are you thinking in terms of health, the current?
Yeah, I mean, being aware, because I'm enrolled in Ayurveda school at Kripalu.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm be reading my 3 books right now. And I have studied Ayurveda under Masvidal for a couple of years. So I am aware, but I wasn't aware that I moved to a Saturn Mercury line until I started studying under you.
Okay. What is your ascendant?
Aware. My ascendant is Swati. It's at 15 degrees, and my K2 is about 11 degrees in Swati.
And the sign of the ascendant?
Libra.
Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I have a Raj Yoga in the 9th. So Venus is in Purnavasu.
Okay.
So I'm in Mars Jupiter.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I have Jupiter in the 10th in Pushya.
Oh, nice.
And it aspects my moon Jyeshtha in the 2nd. It's my Aunt Makarka.
Okay. Now, is the question primarily the influence on your health by being close to your Saturn line?
Right, because I understand what you said, but since I'm aware, I can counteract that and work with Ayurveda.
Exactly. When it comes to my, a lot of the time, being close to your Saturn line, it's a place that can be very beneficial for working through all of your karma. So, because Saturn is where so much of our karma lies. So, being close to the Saturn line, it's very beneficial potentially in terms of the which house is your Saturn in?
In the 6th and Uttarabhadra Padra.
Okay,
16 degrees, same degrees as my Lagna.
Okay, so there's this aspect of the work that you do, your ability to achieve in this lifetime. There's also an aspect of self-improvement. So these are some of the different, but when my client...
my yoga karka.
Okay, beautiful. So there's an energy clearly that there's karma in you being close to your Saturn line and that you're working through that. But whenever my clients move to their Saturn line, it's important that Vata pacification becomes one of the emphasis of their lifestyle. For example, I always say that living close to your Saturn line, you're more of a candidate to need panchakarma. So because you live close to your Saturn line, you should be doing panchakarma at least once per year. Right. Also, it's in terms of daily Vata pacification. Abhyanga is going to be very important. I mean, you said you're near Kripalu in New England, yes?
Mm-hmm. I'm enrolled there. I'm accepted there. I start in September. And
that's where the Saturn line is?
Uh-huh. Running right through it.
Yeah,
in New York City. It runs straight up. And then
but you just moved there.
Mercury goes like that. I just moved there. And Mercury goes like this.
My intuition is that the cold is going to be very Vatavishian, the cold and the wind. And so it's important that you counteract with opposite gunas as much as possible. Oily, heavy, sweet, all of these things are important. It's going to be, as you're closer to your Vata line, it's going to be more important to eat a Vata pacifying diet. Lots of sweet tasting foods. Paneer, even a little bit of meat is okay if you're not a vegetarian, because these energies for you are going to be vitiated, so it's important to balance them. Also, Vata pacification in terms of herbs. Because the Saturn line very disturbing to the vata of the mind, which means anxiety, nervousness, worry. These things can be brought in. So it's important to counteract that with certain things that will help pacify the mind. So like certain vata pranayamas would be beneficial for you. Anuloma viloma. This will be very beneficial for you during being close to your Venus line. Ujjayi pranayama. This will also be beneficial to you as well. Give yourself the strength that you need, because the vata over a long period of time becomes more debilitating only if we're not taking care of the vata dosha. If we're taking care of the vata dosha, then we're bringing the awareness of this vata influence and we're counteracting it. Certain herbs are going to be good for you. I like being close to a Saturn line. I always like to recommend Jetamunsi for the mind and Vidari for the body. So Vidari, Jetamunsi, these herbs will also be healing to you and help counteract some of the vata vitiation of the Saturn line.
Yeah, and I signed up at Shivananda in New York City to start going to group meditation, because I've never done that, and group yoga. So I know that'll help.
That will help also. There's a good intuition that will help, because Saturn is a planet of isolation and separation. So you are more predisposed to feeling isolated or separated in some way. So to emphasize the group, to emphasize the community is a really good way to balance out those energies.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It was a very, very good,
Excellent. Thank you.
Way into Ayurveda also. Yeah. So astrocartography is great in all regards. It is really beautiful.
Yeah, it can really help us with longevity, to live the longest life possible, because whatever doshas these planetary lines are influencing, if we have an awareness of these planetary lines and some of the vitiations that might occur, by keeping these doshas in balance, we can help us live a longer life, so we can achieve dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So the medical aspect is incredibly important, and I just give the utmost thanks to my Ayurveda guru, Dr. Vasant Lad, for all of his education in this area.
Oh, certainly.
I am nothing without him. I am nothing without his education. So thank you, Dr. Lad.
The next question is, which would be the best place for material and spiritual success? And by moving, can we change the destiny? Or what was meant to be originally?
In this regard, we have limited this session to love and relationship issues, I believe. Yeah, that was the theme. We can touch upon it if you still have time, of course.
Also, that a lot of that was answered in our first webinar.
Yes.
So I would, if you have not seen the first webinar yet, it was focused on career, prosperity, and our ability to achieve artha, financial prosperity and independence. So again, significations on the 10th house, 2nd house, certain signs and planets which are different. And we covered a lot of that in our first webinar on artha as well.
It's all online under our YouTube channel. And Kṣaṇāti shared the videos as well.
Yes. I think with today we slowly come to an end unless there are really representative questions, Gautam, and in this regard, you may ask.
Okay, I think there are no more questions as of now.
As of now, okay.
Yeah.
We have touched upon many questions today, I feel, and I don't know. Maybe we will of course post it on YouTube as a video. And in this regard, under the video, we can still answer the questions, if I'm correct, Kṣaṇāti.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay, Renu wants to ask one question related to Saturn.
Yes.
I wanted to see if the transit of Saturn moving to Sagittarius and aspecting my 7th Lord Jupiter from their natal Rahu and natal Mercury play.
Yes, certainly the natal Rahu will play. because of the Saturn aspect on the seventh house, and Rahu being located in the seventh house with Jupiter aspected by Ketu. And Mercury, I don't have the chart. Let me pull up the chart real quick and see if that is going to show up here. Okay, so okay, great.
Play any role in meeting my partner. That's what she wants to know.
Certainly, yes. I feel like we may have discussed this in our time together, but I think that there will be a great influence of the transit of Saturn as
you
well.
You mentioned it because it will be a Saturn return as well.
Yeah. Sagittarius is your seventh house. So Saturn will be aspecting your seventh house as well. And so this aspect of Saturn on the seventh house can certainly show this possibility of the energy here. And it says Saturn line passing through a few cities. So in the Rahu location, which is the East Coast. Yes, you might be able to find people from these Saturn lines. But again, my overall influence with your chart is that people from this Jupiter line and near this Jupiter line will be more beneficial than the Saturn line. Also because of Jupiter being in Sagittarius in the seventh house, being a really strong indicator there.
One more question came, which we also touched upon before, that concerning Mahadasha, Antadasha, and Pratyantadasha. Yeah? So should we see the Pratyantadasha as well to understand the reasons for moving to a region? Reasons is always difficult, no?
Yes, it is. I would say that the reasons will primarily come from the Maha and the Antardasha. When you get in the Pratya, the Sukshma Dasha, you're getting more into the specific energies influencing you when you may already be at these places, which is why these more subtle dasha periods are more about influencing when people are traveling very often, very frequently from location to location. It can show the subtle influences that are taking place in your karma as you move from one location to the other. But in terms of the reasons, I would say that the reasons for these moves, especially if it's a permanent move, are mostly connected to the Maha and the Antardasha. Because those other subtler dashas, they're going to change and you're still going to be where you moved to. So it's going to be these influences of the Maha and the Antardasha that are going to have the greatest influence as to the motives of the move, I think. But the energies that you will experience as you are in these places are going to be shown by these more subtle dashas as well.
Brilliant. Yes.
Wonderful. So we may call it a day for today.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Now that we're all in love with you.
Much.
It was brilliant. Really fantastic.
Thank you all so much for sharing this time for me. It is such a blessing. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart.
We're so grateful, Kṣaṇāti. Thank you.
We could witness also how much experienced you are in this topic, because so fast you could make out one point and many points. Yeah, you are really experienced.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, Kṣaṇāti.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sunilji and Saptarishis.
Thank you, Sunil.
For making this possible, because it is for his channel that we are all here.
Yes.
For bringing the knowledge out. Thank you, Gautam.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you, Gautam.
And all the participants, thank you for coming and joining and listening and putting your questions and even sharing your charts. Yeah. Thank you very much.
And I just wanted to share that I think the next session I will be doing is how to find moksha vibrations, spiritual guru vibrations through astrocartography as well. So we'll be going in a more spiritual direction for the next session.
Wonderful. Yes. Looking forward.
And in this regard, one small point more is the most best way to really participate into that will be to send the questions beforehand in an email, because then they can be addressed particularly. Yeah, we will announce everything well in advance. Thank you for participating.
Thank you to everyone who participated today. It's been a blessing to get to know you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kṣaṇāti. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Then he said, please think on this fundamental question of astrology. Why are you born in so-and-so Lagna, Taurus Lagna, Karka Lagna? Why not in some